So there's a building in Jerusalem which is really the epicenter of Judaism, the epicenter of the Jewish way of life, of worship and um, cleanliness, of the entire Jewish religion. And of course, that building is the temple. It's where Solomon asked God would look to when someone would turn and pray, that God would hear towards this building and would answer the prayer. It's the place of deliverance. It's the place where the lamb is sacrificed to take away the sins of the people, the place of atonement. It's the place on earth where heaven is said to intersect earth and where the very essence of God dwells. Not because God can fit inside of a building, which Solomon is quick to point out, but that God has chosen to choose this location as a place where He listens to people, as a place where He will come into contact with His chosen ones. And we would say, as Jesus, as God on earth, in Matthew's Gospel, comes in His last week to the temple. And wow, what an amazing statement that God has come back into His temple. And when He gets there, He does not like what He sees. And He quotes a passage from Jeremiah. You see, Jeremiah went and stood at the doors of the temple, and in this beautiful sermon described the hypocrisy that was being performed by the Hebrews back in Jeremiah chapter 7. And Jesus comes and quotes that same passage, that same sermon of Jeremiah, and then He begins to drive the hypocrites out of the temple. And He confronts the religious leaders, and He calls them hypocrites and a brood of vipers. And there's more in the study that goes along with those words. And he talks about the Moses seed and how they sit in this place of honor, but they don't actually do what they're saying. And then He looks at this building, and it's so much bigger than what anyone realizes is happening, because when the Hebrews were carried off into exile, the presence of God left the temple. And the Jews are longing for the day when God will visibly return. And He's there. He's there. And they miss it, because God has come back to the temple, just like it was prophesied. But instead of receiving Him, they kick Him out. And Jesus turns and He says, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets, how long I've wanted to gather you under my wings as a hen gathers her chicks, but you would not have it." And then God says something profound. He turns and He says, "Behold, I leave to you your house desolate." And for the last time, God turns and He leaves the temple.